this time on a complete guide to four-wheel drive. We're going to do more driving techniques. We're going to go down some very steep slopes and up them. We're going to go playing with this Prado. We're in the desert dune field of Lambert's Bay, a stunning place to go playing with a four-wheel drive. And then at the end of the show, we're back in the Kalahari. It's getting dark and it's time to eat. But right now, it's time to go playing. This is the Toyota Prado VX. It's a top spec, luxury, every bells and whistles four-wheel drive. It's a real four-wheel drive. It's got a low range gearbox and it's got good clearance. Not brilliant clearance, but certainly adequate for some off-road fun. We've had driving the vehicle now for about a week. We've done some long distance stuff on it and it just eats up the kilometers. Beautifully quiet, smooth, powerful. Now we're going to see how good it is off-road. To get an impression of a vehicle's performance off-road, doing it in the dunes is not ideal, because any vehicle with reasonable clearance and lots of power will do well on the dunes. And I'm including SUVs that are not real off-road vehicles because they don't have low-range gearboxes. So the Prado is doing superbly in the dunes. Lots of power, reasonable clearance, responsive. It's as good as any four-wheel drive station wagon you can get in an environment like this. Now what we need to do is test it on a gravel road to see how it handles corrugations. That's another element. Four-wheel drive vehicles, people tend to drive them a lot on dirt roads. Let's see how it handles. Is it responsive? Does it feel safe? But so far, in the dune fields, I've enjoyed it immensely. While on the tar, the Prado handles beautifully. There's a dirt section ahead. And let's see how stable it is. All four-wheel drive vehicles will find themselves on roads like this, twisty, turny, rough gravel. Sometimes they'll be loaded and sometimes they won't. And they've got to perform well. The Prado is a very, very stable vehicle on roads like this. Even with a load, it performs well. But I must say something, that when it gets very rough, as it's doing now, at speed, it tends to wallow a bit. It's the soft suspension that makes it such a comfortable ride on the open road and in town that actually you pay for it. So I'm tending to keep my speed a little down. I will not go above 90 kilometers an hour on such a road, although traction-wise, she handles beautifully. What strikes me driving this Prado is that a lot of people criticize four-wheel drivers for buying 4x4s and then never using them. They're never using them off-road or using them for what they were built for. I actually disagree with this, because what strikes me about this vehicle is that it's good at just about everything. It has low range, it has good clearance, so that when you want to go adventuring and go and playing, like we have done on the dunes, it's very good at it. It's interesting how four-wheel drives have evolved. This is a soft, rounded, luxury, comfortable, fast off-road cruiser. But you pay a price for that. It's not like the old days where they were built real tough that you could nail something into them. Here's an example. This lovely mag wheel is a 17-inch. Trouble is a 17-inch. If you're in the wilderness and you have a puncture and you go into a little shop, store or something and try and find yourself a tire, forget it. You're not going to find a 17-inch rim or tube anywhere. It's just not going to happen. You will find 16. 15 is probably the most common. The shape of the vehicle. They're getting lower in the front. As nice as those lights are, this gets damaged off-road. It's one of those things. We've now run it for a week, done everything from shopping to a little weekend trip, and I can honestly say that it does nothing badly. It's a really nice car to own. My only criticism that I can really level against this vehicle is that personally I find the steering a little vague. And that's about where my criticism ends. Apart from that, I could easily own one. Time now to learn some off-road driving skills. We're going to climb some very steep slopes. True off-road vehicles are equipped with extra low gearing. It means that they can climb up to a 1-in-1 slope. That's 45 degrees. Practically speaking though, in the rough and slippery surfaces of the wild, 4x4s will stop at anything over 40 degrees. The slopes that we're going to learn on range from 25 to 35 degrees. That is a lot steeper than it looks. The first thing is gear selection. Here on this slope, low range first gear. It's too low, too much power to the wheels. Here the same slope, this time in low range second gear. It's a much smoother and easier passage. Climbing slopes is a combination of momentum and traction. Here the correct gear is used, but there's too much momentum. The wheels lift and bounce. It might look dramatic, but it's not particularly good driving. Much better to keep the wheels on the ground. Here again, low range first gear. The same slope in low second. And it's also a great way to break something on the vehicle. Many turbo diesel vehicles have a problem with climbing steep slopes in low range second because the engine can't maintain the revs to keep the turbo working. In this case, the driver is often forced to drive in a lower gear, which can be a big disadvantage. A driver who knows his vehicle well will be able to drive as slowly as possible and as fast as necessary. As the ground under the vehicle undulates, wheels are going to start battling for grip. The natural tendency is to accelerate when this happens, but this makes things worse. Taking the foot off the accelerator at this point, wheel spin stops and the tyres begin to grip again. This is an important principle. You take your foot off the accelerator at this moment, the wheel spin stops, the tyres grip again, and the vehicle moves quicker. Now what happens if we're driving along up these hills and we stall the motor? There's an easy and safe way of recovering the vehicle. I'll show it to you now, I'll demonstrate it. I'm going to stall this vehicle. Oh, that stalls. I put my foot on the foot brake. Most important thing to know, to remember, you never ever put your foot on the clutch at this time. The vehicle is being held safely on the gears rather than the brakes. If you put your foot on the clutch, you're releasing the gears and you're relying on your brakes, and you don't want to do that. But we have to get the vehicle to go backwards, so we have to change gears, and we have to put on our foot on our clutch to change gears. So, foot on the foot brake, nice and firmly. You can use your handbrake if you like. I'm not going to. It's an option. Vehicle is now secure. I'm now going to put my foot on the clutch, and I'm going to do it slowly and carefully to make sure the vehicle is safe on the brakes. I'm going to take it out of gear. I'm going to put it in reverse. Make sure it's in. Take your foot off the clutch, right off the clutch. Then I'm going to release the brakes. Now the vehicle will start backwards. And that noise is, of course, it now taking up on the transmission. The vehicle is now stationary. My foot is off the foot pedal. I'm going to crank the starter. I'm not going to with the starter. I'm just going to fire it, click it, just crank it over, because I do not want the starter motor to drive the vehicle backwards. I just want the vehicle literally to start under its own power. And it's just so safe and smooth. The secret is, do not touch the clutch while the vehicle is in motion. Only do that once you've secured it on the foot brake. Put it in gear, take your foot off the clutch, crack the starter motor, and the vehicle will come back under the gears, under compression, nice and safely, and you'll have steering control all the way to the bottom. There will come a time when every off-roader gets stuck. So perhaps it's time we began looking at some recovery techniques. To begin with, freeing a lightly bogged vehicle. Clearly, the right rear wheel is caught in a hole, and the left front has little weight on it and it's spinning. A first reaction might be to push down on it, but the best way to do this actually is to lift one of the back wheels. The principle is this: if you lift a wheel, weight is transferred to its diagonal opposite. If we lift the back wheel by dropping in some rocks into the hole it's made, it will push down on the front left. Both wheels will get traction. In this second illustration, the Land Cruiser is in the same predicament, two diagonal wheels struggling for traction. Here the driver clears away excess sand and then removes sand from under the right front wheel. This reduces the axle twist. Instead of spending half an hour rigging a winch, 10 minutes with a well-used spade will do. The secret is, once you get stuck, stop before you get too deeply stuck. So through mucking about, showing you how to do it, we've got a bit stuck. But in sand generally, it's quite easy to get unstuck. In sand, it's often a matter of moving just a little bit of sand with your hands. Now sand tends to, in front of a spinning wheel, build up a ridge. And you just take your hand and just remove the ridge. Just do it with all four wheels. And then make that little run up and get ourselves out of difficulty. travelling in the outback, it's a really nice idea to carry 2 spare tyres. With the Land Cruiser, I'm lucky enough to be able to fit this, an IEF Engineering double wheel carrier. And the rear bumper doubles as a high lift jacking point. The fitting of a wheel carrier means that a massive 170 litre auxiliary fuel tank can be fitted. It's controlled by a simple valve, and it gives the cruiser enough range to drive from Cape Town to Bight Bridge. About 4 years ago, I fitted one of these outback roller draw systems in my Mercedes Geländewagen, and I loved it. We're going to do exactly the same again with the Land Cruiser. But before we do, we're going to speak to Adolf Weidach, who developed the system and is building them here in South Africa.
Well, Andrew, I mean, not much has changed right from the beginning since we made these draw systems. We still use the same bearing setup like you see here. We use approximately 48 bearings depending on the size of the unit, but in your case 48 bearings to hold the 2 drawers and the fridge slide in place. Now you can see we have a number of bearings at the bottom of the drawer which hold the drawer sideways, and then all the others are supporting bearings carrying the weight of the drawer. The reason why we do this is to be able to carry the load that you want to carry in your drawers. It's got to be strong, first of all. Secondly, it may not rattle. That is the biggest problem that you can ever have in a car. You've bought an expensive car, and now you go and put some little box in the back there that rattles from here to Mount. You know, it's going to drive you crazy. Yeah. So that's why you need these bearings, and that's why these bearings have to be accurate. We work to 0.2 of a millimeter accuracy from the front bearing to the back bearing, because when the drawer glides in here, there's no, if the drawer drops slightly towards the back bearing, it would hit the back bearing and you couldn't close the drawer. So that's why these bearings got to be spot on, so that when you open and close your drawer, it must move the same way every single time that you use it.
Okay, what kind of weight can I put in this drawer? I mean,
we rate these drawers at 150 kilos each, right? So that means 150 kilos can be packed in here, whichever way, you know. I mean, some people, we sell these drawers to people that carry coins, would you believe it, to an owner who owns a casino in one of the neighboring states, and he's carrying the coins in here. He carries in each drawer 250 kilograms worth of coins in there. So that shows you how strong they are.
What is a lighter unit? It's empty weight, and a heavier unit. What is the weight that I'm going to load?
The smallest one that we make is for the RV vehicle. That weighs about 28 kilos. And the top one, like the one you're talking about for the Land Cruiser, that weighs 88 kilos. So it's a weight. It's quite a weight that you're putting into your vehicle. Yes. But you know, you would do the same if you had to make a framework and put boxes in it and whatever to secure them. That's the big thing in a vehicle too, is we're giving you a product where your goods are secured. You know, they don't fly around in the back of your vehicle, which could potentially be very dangerous. So, you know, you put heavy goods in here, whether it's your snatch block or whatever, you can put that in here and it's not going to fly around the vehicle. Right. So that's an added, it is security.
Okay, with the Land Cruiser, I don't have any problem with you drilling holes in the floor of my Land Cruiser. Yes. Okay, but what happens if I've got a Range Rover
or a Prado or one of the
what is now am I going to be worried? Is it a concern that you're going to mount it?
No, there's only a few vehicles that we drill holes, to fasten our products. All the others we use existing tie-down hooks. You know, the 100 series cruisers, the Prados, the Pajeros, all those cars come with tie-down hooks. And you will see on the outside of our unit, we have bracketry that takes up those existing tie-down hooks. So we remove those, bolt onto the same bolt holes, and should you sell the car, you can take the unit out and refit the rings, and nobody will even know you.
The original carpet is nice and clean underneath, untouched.
Exactly.
Our Kalahari adventure has brought us to our second camp. Here's one of my favorite pieces of equipment. It's an easy awning. Charlotte de Toy shows us how to set it up.
And the awning will fall into the cradle over here. Leave our hands free to start disassembling the legs. pull that leg out, pull the sock off, peg in the socks usually, put that there, and just let it dry freely there. Then we grab these stabilizer arms, unclip that, and swing it right out to the outer edge.
Right, and just let it hang there. Like
Just let it hang, John.
Okay, great.
Then, let me just say to you, this arm here
Yes.
are the front legs. There's a nut down here, and the outer casing slides.
Okay,
So people think,
all right, I can see that. Yeah.
all right, now we simply lift this guy out and let him drop, just let him drop down.
Okay, yeah.
That's easy, easy like that.
Yeah.
You then take this arm, undo your little nut at the end there, and slide that out. Okay, and hook it in. And now you
over the
Yeah.
elbow there. Okay.
over the elbow, should stay in there, and you just walk your awning, anchor it, and tie those guys up.
Okay, just finger tight, not
Just, yeah, finger tight is good.
okay.
Okay, then we undo that nut there,
Yes.
and then just slide that down and tighten it.
And the height-wise, Charlotte, do you want it high or low water?
You can tilt it either way,
Okay.
depending on which way you want your water to run off. But even more importantly, before you take another step, is to peg it down.
Okay.
So John, here's a peg for you.
Thank you.
It's very important. That just goes in at an angle. And for as
Alright.
long as you've pegged this awning, it will withstand unbelievably ferocious winds.
But what, it just looks too damn flimsy
It
for
does.
me. It really,
It does.
I just
You
can't.
know, it's the epitome of less is more.
Yeah. It's the correct engineering
That's
is
it.
and the right material for
Yeah,
the job.
but God help you if you don't peg it. Yes. I tell you, Andrew, this thing goes like a bullet. On the other side of your vehicle, everything is like this. You come home like this.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good at all.
Yeah.
There's no real need to rough it nowadays. John and Steve tried out and erected our new portable shower cubicle. Okay, starting to get dark. First thing I'd like to go through is something that I created. I call it kind of my night box. I've got matches, I've got bulbs for my torches, spare batteries for my torches, I've got matches in a waterproof container, things like torches, knife sharpener, valve tools for my lamps, Kodak cookers and things like that. And inside it, fuel for stove, tab bars, the kind of thing that you need the moment it starts getting dark. That helps me light a fire if it's benzene, if the wood's wet, insecticide, fire lighters, mosquito coils, meths for getting the burners going, and I've got a bit of spare space. I've put in some of my water purifier and sleeping bag. If I'm sleeping on the roof of my vehicle and I want to keep myself dry, that's a waterproof bag, and I slip into that, and I can sleep on the roof of my car.
Okay. Get some coals for our bread.
Night falls gently round us. The children prepare the fire, and then John and Sue practice their art. A piece of equipment we're going to try is this bread oven. It comes with a recipe, so we're going to try that first.
Too much.
The secret behind bread ovens is no secret. You can use it for anything that you would normally use at home in your oven. Bread, cakes, potato bakes, I'm sure there are lots more. Place hot coals under it, around it, and on top. The more coals, the hotter it bakes. Don't be too eager with the coals, especially underneath, because burning the bottom of the bread is the most common mistake.
Voila. Bread for us.